Good evening and welcome to the Livonia City Council. The Honorable Kathleen McIntyre will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you all rise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilwoman McIntyre. Excuse me. We'd like to welcome you to this study session of the Livonia City Council. This is June the 3rd meeting, and this meeting sets the agenda for the 1,875th regular meeting, which will be a voting meeting that will take place on Monday, June the 17th. We have no council absences, and any groups that anyone would like to introduce or make comment for? Recognition-wise, birthdays, otherwise? Okay, we do have new data, item 11 and 13. Alrighty, this is indeed a study meeting, and for right now, we will have anyone that would like to give anything other than that, not on the agenda, on the yellow agenda, that is, for the meeting, any comments or any issues you have, if you'd approach a podium to my left or right, we'd be happy to take your comments. Seeing and hearing no one, council will go into tonight's agenda. This indeed, as I announced, this is a study meeting. There will be no votes taken this evening. The council members will, however, either offer one resolution or a combination of resolutions for each item. The resolutions offered may be an approving, a denying, or a referring resolution to a committee or a city department for their report and recommendation. A resolution of no further action may also be offered. There are some items that will be simply received and filed for the information of the City Council. Please note that all of the items on tonight's agenda will move on to the regular meeting of June the 17th of this year, where they will be officially voted on. If you'd like to participate in tonight's meeting, if you'd approach the podium to my left or right and give us your name and address and speak into the microphone, we'll be happy to gather the information that you may have. So without further ado, let's move into item 1, which is, first we'll go in, we had audience communication, now we would go into item 1, which is a block party to be held Saturday, July 13th from 3 to 10 p.m. on Ingram Street between Plymouth and Elmira with a rain date of Saturday, July the 20th. Is Mel here? There he is.
She, actually. Sorry.
Well, I'm sorry, she.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. So it's Melanie, really?
Melissa.
Oh, Melissa, okay. All right, Melissa, what are you gonna provide for us here?
Well, sorry, it's my first time. I'm not really sure what we're supposed to discuss with you, but really, we're just a very close-knit group of neighbors who typically have a little progressive parties and whatnot, and would love to be able to have a block party with the road closed and have food.
Can I back you up a minute? Just give us your name and address
Oh,
for the
I'm
record.
sorry.
That's all right.
Mel Kolinski, 11400 Ingram.
Okay. Okay, and you've heard what Mrs. would like to do? Go right ahead,
Madam
Councilwoman. Councilman.
This is the time of the year for block parties and neighbors to get together. We're happy that you're doing that. We hope it continues. Everything looks to be in order. Good luck. I'll offer an approving for the consent agenda. That means you don't have to come back, and we wish you the best. Do you have any kids, though, that are going to be at the...
That's a bunch of them, yeah.
All right, so the Livonia Police Department's really good at, I can't guarantee they always do it, but they usually send a police officer out to kind of hang out with the kids for a little while.
Oh, cool.
They bring a car and stuff like that.
I think
Like,
we
I
have
can't
about
guarantee that,
26
but
of
they-
them in our little block.
They usually do that. The officer's super cool and super nice and does
Awesome.
the siren and stuff like that. So good luck, have fun,
Thank you.
enjoy.
Thank you.
Have fun. Anybody else on the block party? Anyone from the audience wishing to speak about the block party on item 1? Seeing and hearing no one, we'll go to item 2, which is also a block party. There's several names on this. Is anyone here? Okay, come on up. Ray, Artie, Mark Miller, and Jim Rumrill, is it? And this is a block party to be held on Saturday, August the 17th, from 11 to 10 p.m. on Brentwood Street between Jacquelyn and Meadowlark, with a rain date of Sunday, August 18th of this year.
That is correct.
Yes, sir.
My name is Ray Franges, 14430 Brentwood Street, and this is our 15th, 16th. It's 2003, I believe, was our first, and apologize for last year not having appeared, because sometimes once they make you salary, they make you work all kinds of ungodly hours because they know they don't have to pay you overtime.
It's a good one.
Madam President.
We plan on doing the same thing
Just let 'em-
in last year, and I think 2 years prior before that, the police officers did attend, and it was really good. Good turnout, and really have to give kudos to the Livonia Police Department for that.
Okay, so they weren't there for only good things, right?
They were offered, but they turned us down.
Oh, darn, okay. Go right ahead, Councilman Barr.
Yeah, Ray, I'm not sure if I met you, but I know a number of your neighbors as a former resident of that neighborhood, and anytime something Compton Village comes up here, I like to approve it, so. This is a longstanding block party. I remember it when I lived over there, and be happy to offer this for approving on consent if there's no objection.
Great. Okay.
Thank you very
We have an approving
much.
on consent, which means you can stay home and watch us on TV, on cable. All right. Congratulations. Item 3, then, Council, was there any objection from the audience on that? Okay. Great. Then we'll move on to item 3, which is a request to waive the city's noise ordinance. This is St. Michael's Church to allow a car show with a DJ to be held in their parking lot at 11441 Hubbard Road, Saturday, July the 20th, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Was anyone here on that? There's a Kate Barczuk, is it? Hi, Kate, come on up.
Hi, this is St. Michael's fourth annual car show that we'll be having. We usually have the parking lot open from 8 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. The show actually really runs from 9 till about 2:30. And we have food and a DJ and ice cream, whatever, bouncy for the kids. We were just hoping that we could get a noise ordinance again this year, the waiver, so we can have our DJ.
Certainly.
Madam
Councilman-
Chair?
Councilman Kritzman, then Councilman White. No problem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I'm sure Councilwoman White was about to do, I would like to offer an approving resolution. This is an event that has been happening the last few years, and from what I understand, it's been met with great success. We certainly haven't had any issues with it. One of my favorite aspects of this event is it's usually brought by Mr. Melashevitz.
Yes.
And I'm the only person on this board who can pronounce his name, so I usually look forward to this one. However, unfortunately, Mr. Malashevitz is not here this evening to offer this item, but I would again like to offer an approving resolution.
Great, thank you. Councilwoman White, did you
Oh,
want to
I
say?
was just going to mention, this is about two streets away from my home. I may just wander over, and I know you've done it in the past. I've never had any issues with hearing anything over there, so I'm happy to support this as well.
Great, thank you very
Great.
much. Thank you.
Much
Good luck.
congratulations to you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone from the audience wishing to speak to this issue? Hearing and seeing no one, have a great time. It's on consent, I believe, right? And
Yes.
so therefore, you don't need to come back. Okay, sure. Item 4 is a request to waive the city's noise ordinance as well. Is James here? McGartland? There he is. Okay, from the Sports Locker Bar and Grill to host a parking lot party with live music in their parking lot located at 30375 Plymouth Road on Saturday, August 31st, from 5 to 11 p.m. Go right ahead, sir.
Hi, James McGartland, owner of Sports Locker Bar and Grill, 30375 Plymouth Road. We're trying to put together kind of enter the summer, second year anniversary of new owners with a parking lot party that would consist of live bands. And we're asking to waive the noise ordinance from 5 to 11 p.m.
Is this your first one, sir?
This is our first one.
Yes, go right ahead, Councilman Vice President Shelley.
I'll defer to my colleague.
Councilwoman McIntyre? Okay. Go
Is
right ahead.
this, good evening, Mr. McFarland, and I want to thank you again for your past participation. I think your first year in a number of the Livonia events, including Taste of the Spree, and we met that evening, and I said we needed to get in there and haven't made it yet, but be in to visit. But Is this Labor Day weekend? I don't have my calendar in front of me.
Yeah, it's August 31st,
So that's the Saturday of
Labor Day weekend.
Labor
correct.
Day weekend. I think that, done correctly, these can be great opportunities for people who are looking for something to do, with the people that stay in town. You do know that there's a mention in here about an outside bar. All of those arrangements have to be made through the Livonia Police Department and their liaison with the Liquor Control Commission. So we don't have anything to do with the approval of liquor. But I would be supportive of waiving the noise ordinance. I think 11 o'clock on a Saturday night of a holiday weekend is very reasonable. And I would assume that you're going to have proper security and everything else to ensure that everything goes smoothly.
Yes, ma'am.
Great, so that's an approving, right?
I'd like to offer an approving. I don't know if Mr. Jolly had something else to offer.
I do not. The only thing I was going to add is, and I apologize, I've been trying to pull this up on a map. Do you have any residential neighbors nearby or no?
Nothing
Yeah,
close,
so,
no.
yeah, so,
Plymouth Road.
nothing then. Yep, I was just trying to check on that.
Great, okay. Did you want that on consent?
I'd like
or-
it on consent if there are no
Okay.
objections.
Great.
And again, you gotta square the liquor piece away with the police department.
Will do.
And while we have you here, how's business going down there? Pretty good?
It's been
Okay.
excellent it'll actually be our second year anniversary, June 16th. So,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are you
You guys
coming
are all
back to,
invited to the party too.
great,
so
are you coming back to Taste of the Spree?
We will be there.
We'll look forward to it. You had
All right.
great food last year.
Thank you.
Alrighty then. You have an approving on consent, which means you can stay home and watch us on TV.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye. Okay, item 5, everyone, is a request to authorization to purchase 2 Dell PowerEdge 4740 servers through the state of Michigan contract pricing. This is brought to us from the Division of Police for the purpose of replacing current servers which are out of warranty at the end of their life, and replace parts are limited or no longer available from budgeted funds. Do we have anyone here from the police department?
Madam President,
Yes.
I'll offer an approving resolution, but place this on the regular agenda so we can move this along and have a
Sure.
representative from the police department here.
That'd be fantastic. Okay, great. So we do have an approving, and somebody from Dell was going to be here too. Are they not here? Because I don't want to pass them up if they drove a long way or whatever. Okay. Anyone from the audience wishing to speak to this? Item 5. Item 6, then, council, is a request to authorize appropriation and expenditure of the Department of Resources to enable payment to Buckmaster Contracting Company for the critical repair and replacement of existing wood and gutters and shingles on the south barn at Greenmead. Director McCann.
Good evening. I'm asking council tonight to authorize payment to Buckmaster of $12,350 for an emergency roof repair on the south barn. I think I put pictures in your package. You can see the sky from the inside. They did come back in December and fix a hole for us, but it was winter, so they couldn't do the rest of the work. So this would, with this additional work, it goes over the $15,000, so you need to approve this. Please.
Please.
Madam President,
Yes, please. Go right ahead.
this is a worthwhile endeavor. I'm happy to offer an approving for consent.
Thank you.
Only since she said please.
It is the magic word I tell my kids, right?
Alrighty, we have an approving on consent.
Thank you.
I was going to ask you a quick question, but
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay.
Go ahead.
No, the only question I was going to ask you is, do we actually use that barn a lot? I mean, we were down at the Wilson barn the other day, and they've done a lovely job down there on fixing that up. Have we been renting that out for weddings
No,
or?
no, that barn is not in.
Not really?
No, the north barn, they do have, it's open for
Okay.
exhibit, but the south barn's not,
South barn is not?
not ready.
Okay, not ready yet.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Okay, so don't request a south barn, anyone. Okay, so we have an approving on consent, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Director McCann. Item 7 is a request. Anyone from the audience wishing to talk about that? Hearing and seeing no one. Item 7 is a request to approve designation of unauthorized depositories. This is from our Department of Finance to allow the city to collect property tax payments and water bills as well as purchase certificates of deposit at these financial institutions. Mr. Slater.
Good evening, council. This is a housekeeping item. By charter, the city council has the obligation to designate financial depositories for city dollars. As banks change names and merge and come into the city or out of the city, we update this list periodically to come back to council. These are the entities that, we don't do business with all of them, but if they would be willing to collect taxes on our behalf, or they would have certificate deposit rates that would be competitive, we would do business with them. So simply housekeeping, and I appreciate council's concurrence.
Madam
Please.
Chair,
Go right ahead, Councilwoman White.
happy to offer the approving resolution.
Thank
On
you.
consent, if there's no
On
objection.
consent. Is there any others?
Please.
Please, okay. All right, we have thank you, Ms. Slater. We have an approving on consent with a please, so, anyone from the audience wishing to speak to this? Seeing no one. Item 8 is a request to approve a software maintenance agreement with sole source provider from the Department of Management and Information. Go right ahead. You can explain it. That would be great. Nice to see you.
Good evening, Council. This item is an annual renewal of our Geographic Information System software, or GIS. This system provides mapping functionality to several city departments, including engineering, DPW, planning, assessing, inspection, as well as several applications on our city website. This past year, we upgraded our license from Server Basic to Standard, giving us increased server performance, and we also added a third editing license for the engineering staff. And the total comes to $20,252.46 and is accounted for in budgeted funds. Please.
Great, thank you. Please.
It
It's the magic word tonight. Councilman Grinsman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just first off, I want to say that I appreciate the work that's been done by our department. I can't even begin to share how much I think the GIS applications in the city are going to be more and more important as the years come on. I recently attended the APWA conference for Michigan. It's the American Public Works Association. And seeing and understanding how integral the geographic information systems and our work with GIS is going to be, not just now, but in the future. It's going to expand. It's going to expand a whole lot faster, I think, than we are really even anticipating. That's why Casey and I are working on a subject matter related to one of the committees that we have as a council, and we'll be reviewing that in the future. But I think this is a monumentally important aspect of what we do as a community and as a council and the services that we perform. So I will absolutely be supporting this item, and I ask that it be placed on the consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Okay. We have a consent agenda recommendation. Is there anyone from the audience wishing to speak to this item? Hearing and seeing no one, we are on item 9, council, which is a request for authorization to sell city-owned property purchased through the Wayne County First Right of Refusal Tax Foreclosure Program. It's brought to us from the Livonia Housing Commission for the vacant parcel located at 16147 Henry Ruff to Sauve or Construction, L.L.C. for a sales price of $55,001.00. Brandy, take it away.
Hi, I'm here just to request approval for the Housing Commission to sell the property at Henry Ruff. This property was purchased through the first right of refusal late 2017. It did have a blighted property on it. The Housing Commission did remove that blighted property as well as a tree. Now we're going to sell it to, we actually offered it and received 2 quotes, Sauve and from the neighbor, Matthew Dupree. The high bid was $55,001. Our appraisal was for, I did not write it down. It was for $45,000. So we actually will be receiving more than what we spent out on this property. It cost us about $20,000 to purchase and raise the property. We do have to give any extra funds received back to the county, though. So, just requesting approval, please.
Yes. Go right ahead, Councilman Barr. Was that you?
It was, okay, yeah, we've talked about this before. This program's great for the city. Here's an example of a blighted property that's now gonna be redeveloped by in this particular case, a developer that we're all familiar with and who does really good work. So I'd be happy to offer approving on this for consent if there's no objection.
Thank you. We have an approving on consent. Is there any
Madam
others?
Chair,
No?
just
Yes,
a-
go right
just
ahead,
a-
Councilman
A
Kritzman.
quick clarification based on the comments from Ms. Brandy. One of the things that she noted is that any extra funds would be forfeited back. It's important to note to the people in the community that when we do acquire properties through the tax foreclosure process, through Wayne County, through the first right of refusal, that whole process, we are not profiting from these properties. And when we acquire them and when we sell them, it's not a money-making venture for the city of Livonia. It's our goal and our intention to make certain that these properties are returned back to the tax rolls and that we make them, you know, good contributing properties for the community, but it's not a money-making venture for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Kritzman. Were there any others? Anybody from the audience? Yes, sir, go right ahead. Your name and address for the record, sir.
Certainly, Madam President. My name is Matthew Dupree. I live at 16135 Henry Ruff Street, or Road. I've gotten a mix on which of those is the correct designation. You're on, or I'm sorry, a little used to court here. Madam President, members of the council, I was the other bidder, and I am here tonight because I would like to beg that the council instead award the bid to me. I would note that in the bid packet, there is no indication that the city would award it to the highest bidder. They said the highest qualified bidder, and they specifically noted, or you specifically noted, or the commission, which is like an outreach of you, specifically noted that you could refuse any bid. I'd like to suggest that the best bidder here was in fact myself, and that at the very least there should be some more examination of this. Members of the council, I think the idea of this first refusal program indeed was to ensure the best development, and I'd like to suggest that I would be able to do better development here. The company that ended up putting in the bid here, and there were only two bids, us and them, generally builds houses in about the $100,000 to $250,000 range. They bought the lot for about $50,000, so really you're talking about spending about $200,000 on a house. I had intended to spend quite a bit more than that. I bought the lot next door for quite a bit more than that. I think the neighborhood's moving in a direction that's more than that, which I think is to the benefit of the municipality, and that obviously brings better tax rolls, brings up property values. There have been several homes similarly sold for the $350,000 to $400,000 range in the area. What I would ask tonight is not necessarily that the council deny this or approve this, but rather that further study be made into whether or not there might be a superior bid, if not a higher bid. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, go right ahead, and then Councilman Meakin.
I mean, certainly there's always qualifications related to a situation of this magnitude, and I think that Mr. Dupree has offered an alternate opinion that is potentially valid and something that should be explored. I myself, at one point, ran a small architecture firm that bid on a project for the city of Livonia, and I was the lowest bidder, and I was never called. And I didn't get that opportunity to defend myself, to answer questions, and to potentially say that I feel I am the lowest qualified bidder. So I think he does deserve that right. And I will offer a resolution to throw this to the committee of the whole as well.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, I got Mr. Meakin, and then we'll go right to you, Councilman.
Do we have an approving on the floor?
We do.
I
Okay.
believe we do, and who,
For the
Barr
approving,
gave that.
Okay, because I just also want to address the fact that this isn't the lowest qualified bidder, it was the highest qualified bidder. So there was an opportunity here for you to bid higher. You could have made the arrangements to bid higher. And I disagree with your assessment that this company's only going to build a $100,000 or $200,000 house. They build $400,000 and $500,000 houses in the city as well. So that's not fair to them to say they don't build a $200,000, or they only build a $200,000 house. So I believe the Housing Commission has done their homework on this issue and will be prepared to vote accordingly.
Thank you. Councilman Vice President Jolly and then Councilwoman McIntyre.
Thank you, Madam President. I 100% concur with Mr. Meekin, but I'd also like the opinion of the Law Department. I think there is an intricate relationship between the Livonia Housing Commission and the City of Livonia here.
Separate entity.
It's a separate legal entity, as Mr. Meekin said. I wasn't going to go that far, but it really is. It's questionable at all whether or not they even need our approval to do this. I think most legal opinions would say they don't need our approval because it's a separate legal entity. They've been coming here to get this out of my understanding, more or less a courtesy for many years. So I too will be voting with Mr. Meekin, but if it comes to the point of needing such, I'd like the opinion of the Law Department on it as well. Thank you.
Councilwoman McIntyre, please.
I certainly appreciate that there are a number of factors that go into selecting a bid. I would also be comfortable that our Housing Commission, and also following up what Mr. Jolly said, the questions about separate legal entity and the questions that flow forth. I would, instead of putting, I don't have a desire to put this in the committee of the whole, but I would support putting on the regular agenda. So we have 2 weeks to look at it and ask some questions of the Housing Department and hear from the other bidder if necessary. So that would be my position, but.
Okay. All righty. Yes,
I
Councilman.
just have a question for Mr. Dupree. Did you say the house, is it the house to the, be the south of that property that you built that?
I didn't actually build it, I purchased it, but I purchased it immediately following construction. I didn't have anything.
You actually live there?
I actually live there,
Got it,
yes.
Got it, okay. I was just gonna add to what was said earlier is, you know, where we absolutely do have jurisdiction on this is when, well, although maybe we don't for a home. I was gonna say when it goes to be built for a site plan, but that doesn't apply to home, so scratch that whole thing, never mind. I have no further points, thanks.
If I may ask, is this the one off of Linden? Is it Linden or Myrna?
No.
It would be, so it'd be off of Puritan on Henry Ruff. So
Puritan,
up from
okay.
5 Mile.
Okay, so we had condemned that house, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that's correct.
Did we not?
Yes,
Yeah,
we did.
Okay, because I can remember the gentleman coming in on that. So you abut the property, correct? Do you
No.
abut the property at all? Your house, does it touch the
Oh,
property?
yes, I am immediately to the south, so I am like the literal neighbor in the most literal sense of the term.
I remember a while back that we had one of these, and if I made a Mr. Tormina, does usually the abutting property over have first right on a piece of property? I mean, of this kind of thing? I'm just trying to understand a little bit more.
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
They are afforded certain preferences for no bid opportunities to purchase
Okay.
property. In this case, it was placed out for bid by the Housing Commission. There is an ordinance that does guide the process, which is the reason this is before you this evening, because it's only through the action of City Council that the disposition of any city property can be sold, is my understanding.
Certainly.
So.
Okay, I just wondered about that, that's all. Okay, well, Mr. Dupree, to me, you bring up a few interesting points, but I think we're down the road a little piece, but I think I did like Councilman Kritzman's suggestion and put it into some type of committee to study something further on this, so if it did come up again. But let's see what happens, and thank you both for coming in tonight. So we have an approving, and we have, did you offer a denying or just a committee of the whole, Councilman Kritzman? I'm trying to recall. Just committee of the whole, okay. Alrighty, so we have two, and that's on the regular, I believe. Okay, great. Okay, anybody from the audience wishing to address that? Hearing and seeing no one, we will move on to item 10. Item 10 is a request for authorization to sell city-owned property acquired when the city accepted the deed in 63 from Robert and Marjorie Barczuk, is it?
Barczuk.
Barczuk, thank you. And this is for the vacant parcel located at 8971 Floral to Sauvé and Orrin Construction, L.L.C. for a sale price of $33,001.00. Okay, go right ahead, take it away, Brandy.
This property was obtained a little differently than our traditional means of first right of refusal. It is understood that Mr. and Mrs. Bisick may have had some sort of loan agreement with the city of Livonia, and when they lost their property, they deeded it back to the property. So it was in blighted condition long before I came into the picture and demolished. At one point, the Housing Commission did think about building a house on this property, but after really looking at the requirements, the purchase requirements that would be required for the purchaser and the size of the lot and the size of the house, we didn't think it would be a good fit for a low-income buyer to come in and be able to purchase a property. Typically, it has to be under 150, and for the market value of that neighborhood, home prices are more. So it was better for us to sell the vacant lot and have a property developer build a house on the property and sell it just a regular market purchaser.
Perfect. Thank you for that explanation. We appreciate it. Council, your pleasure, your direction.
Madam President?
Yes, go right
I'll
ahead.
offer an approving for the consent agenda. I trust that the Housing Commission is appropriately apprised of what should happen in this manner.
So we have an approving because of
Them being so smart.
them being so smart and saying please. Okay.
Please.
Alrighty. Anybody else from the council? No? Anyone from the audience? Hearing and seeing no one, will the clerk note that, and thank you, Brandy, very much.
Thank you.
I almost called for a vote. You know that, okay. Item 11 is a request for a resolution supporting a project plan for wastewater system improvements to the Rouge Valley Sewer Disposal System and designate Ingram Street as the authorized project representative, excuse me for this allergy. This is from our Department of Public Works to adopt approving resolution for the final SRF project plan for wastewater system improvements and designating an authorized project representative for the same. Good evening, Mr. Rushlow.
Hi, good evening, and thank you, Madam President. Jacob Rushlow, Superintendent of Public Service in the DPW. So as you had stated, this item is in regards to a resolution that would be in support of the Wayne County system known as the Rouge Valley Sewage Disposal System, submitting a clean water state revolving fund loan application to the state of Michigan to help fund improvements that are needed as a part of a long-term corrective action plan for issues in the sewer system regionally. These project plans are required to be submitted on an annual basis. July 1 is the cutoff date to have those submitted to be eligible for the following year funding. So we're before you here in June asking for that support so the county can submit this for those low-interest loans. It should be noted that this resolution is simply just, as stated, it's a resolution of support. We're not, it doesn't make us or the county required to accept any funding. It's
Okay.
just that they're be eligible to receive funding if it becomes available to them through that SRF loan process.
Super, thank you. Council, your pleasure, your direction.
Madam President?
Yes, go right ahead.
I'll again offer an approving for the consent agenda. Mr. Rushlow and his colleagues who are seated back there, seem to have a great grasp of what is needed in these areas, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rushlow.
Madam President?
Thank you, Councilman. Yes, go right ahead, Councilman Barr.
No objection, I just question. So did you say this is something we annually see? This type of report?
So we don't annually seek to submit these applications. There's a annual deadline to submit for the next calendar year funding, so that's a July 1 deadline that the state puts.
I was just asking because I was studying this today and I didn't remember seeing one quite like this before. I thought it was new, and so when you said that, I was just trying to connect it to something. It's not to say that, I'm sure there's things I've forgotten over the course of the year, but I thought it was unique. Man, I'm on a roll tonight. I forget the other thing I was going to ask, so I guess I'm done. Thanks.
Certainly, Councilman Kritzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Certainly.
Mr. Rushlow, so we've dealt with SRF projects in the past, and I guess this is the first time it's sticking out in my head that we are advocating on behalf of a specific business. Is this our standard course? Because this seems out of the norm.
Yeah, so this is a little bit different because it's not the city of Livonia that's applying for the loan. It's the regional sewage disposal system, which we're a part of, the Rouge Valley Sewage Disposal System, which includes 13 communities. We're one of those communities. So all of us collectively, the county is the lead, as the owner of that system, is submitting this plan. Each community is required through this process with the state for low-interest loans to also support the submittal of that document for a loan.
So how often do we see individual entities like Elmira? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
This is Kelly Cave with the county.
Okay. So Kelly's not with Elmira specifically, but how often do we see individual entities approaching for this sort of action as opposed to this being more of a governmental entity request?
Good evening, Kelly Cave from the Wayne County Department of Public Services. For this sewer system, the Rouge Valley Sewage Disposal System, as Jacob mentioned, this is for the long-term corrective action plan. The county implemented the short-term corrective action plan, which we completed back in 2015. And for that project, which was a $21 million project, all of the communities, including the city of Livonia, adopted the resolution similar to the one before you, supporting the county's application for the low-interest loan. So prior to that, probably, I think before that, we did Lift Station 1A, maybe 10 years ago. So to answer your question, every 5 to 10 years for the last little bit, we've needed to make improvements to this sewer system, which there are parts of it that go back to 1938.
Right. So understandably, there's a whole lot of history from a sewer and stormwater standpoint when it comes to Wayne County. It's certainly something that's been in flux over the last few years. And I mean, we, from a development standpoint, have seen the Wayne County stormwater requirements have been an interesting topic over the last couple of years and continue to be so in projects here in Livonia and in neighboring communities. It's great to see that we're working toward a solution as far as this goes, and we're certainly looking forward to be as much of a partner as possible in that. So I'll offer an approving resolution on this item.
Thank you, Councilman Kritzman. Councilwoman McIntyre, and then Councilman Barr.
I really appreciate Mr. Kritzman's detailed understanding of this. When I went through this, I have a question, and it's a small point, but in order to be the compliance with the final order of abatement number 2117, was that legal compliance required by the city or by the county for the facility? That I wasn't quite clear about that.
The final order of abatement was issued by the state of Michigan, formerly known as the Department of Environmental Quality, currently known as the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. That order of abatement was issued originally in 1989. And the order of abatement is related to eliminating sanitary sewer overflows from the Rouge Valley system into our rivers, lakes, and streams. And so we have had this, the order of abatement itself has been amended over the years, but it was a very long-term plan to allow us to study the system and determine a cost-effective solution to removing those sanitary sewer overflows. As part of this plan, as I mentioned, the system goes back to 1938. So the benefit of the alternative that we have recommended in the plan is that we will also be, while we are drying out the system to eliminate those overflows, it will also provide some repairs and shoring up of the pipes to ensure their longevity. So this order was issued to the county.
Okay.
And as a system customer of this system, that's why we're here before you today.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate and understand bit better now, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Barr.
Yeah, I found the second question I was going to ask. I had written it on the wrong item, so. I noticed in going through the notes that some of our costs here are higher because there's a few communities that have left the Rouge Valley sewage disposal system. You have any context as to how and why they were able to do that?
Yes, the Rouge Valley Sewage Disposal System included 16 communities. 3 of them, the townships of Canton, Plymouth, and Northville, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, formed what's known as the Western Townships Utility Authority. And they built a connection to the Ypsilanti Community Utility Authority wastewater plant. And so they were able to send their wastewater to the county, to the Rouge Valley system for disposal at the City of Detroit's wastewater plant or the Yucca plant. And they were sending about half of it both directions. And 2 years ago, they informed the county that they wanted to discontinue sewer service through the Rouge Valley system and send all of their wastewater to the Yucca plant. So the fact, because the cost that we have for running the wastewater system and paying Great Lakes Water Authority to dispose of it at the plant are a certain amount. And if you remove 3 of the people that paid for that, then the cost will go up to the remaining customers.
Okay, thanks for that context. Appreciate it.
Certainly. Anyone else? You've been really educational tonight. Thank you very much for coming in. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for
Yes, ma'am.
considering it.
Yes. How long have you worked for the county? Since
98.
98, okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, anyone from the audience wishing to talk about sewers tonight? Okay, thank you. All right. You have direction on that, correct?
Well, we had approving by Councilmember, Vice President Jolly and from Councilmember Kritzman. So which one is?
You have a double approving?
I believe I was first.
I think the vice president was first.
And is that consent?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Kritzman, but he was first.
Deal.
Okay.
Square deal. It's fine.
You have to say please next time, sir.
Please.
Okay, item 12 is a request to adjust water and sewer consumption rates, industrial surcharge rate, and industrial waste control charge. This is brought to us from the Public Service Division to become effective with the first billing on, or after July 1st of this year. Are you giving us good news, I hope? I thought so.
It's all relative.
Yes.
Colleen Coleman, Chief Accountant of the City of Livonia.
Okay.
The Department of Public Works and the Finance Department have, would like to recommend a water and sewer increase of just slightly more than 0.5%, which translates for the average user to about 96 cents for their quarterly billing. These rates have been calculated to be both revenue and cash flow neutral. And our largest expense, of course, is the fixed costs we pay to our suppliers. $7 million to Great Lakes Water Authority, $14 million to Wayne County, so about $24 million worth of fixed costs.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's
Great, Colleen. I might even be able to agree with you guys this year. First time in many years. Yes, go right ahead, Councilman Meekin, then Councilwoman McIntyre.
Well, that was better news than I was expecting, so I'll be happy to offer an approving resolution on the
Yes, sir.
consent agenda if there's no objection.
Thank you, Councilman Meekin.
Madam Chair, I think,
Wait a minute.
doesn't this have to go in the regular, isn't it, an ordinance
Yeah,
amendment?
it has to, yeah. That's okay. Is that a regular, is that what you meant to say? Okay. Councilwoman McIntyre, thank you, Councilwoman White.
Thank you, Colleen and Jacob, for being here tonight, and this is relatively good news. And as you know, we get a lot of discussion, a lot of questions from citizens about our water rates and why are we raising rates and our fixed costs. And just a quick reminder that the city of Livonia is a customer of the Great Lakes Water Authorities. And we have to buy our water and have our sewers, our sewer services provided by the GLWA. We don't have any option. And so every year they come to us with, sorry. Thought I don't know if I'm losing it or hearing music or, I don't know, it's been a long
Probably
evening.
both.
Anyway.
It's probably both.
It's not quite.
I didn't hear any music.
They come to us, to the city with rates, and then it's the city that has to pay them. And we always look for ways to minimize the impact to our citizens, because you have to pay for water, but we're just the pass-through. So, you know, we go through this every year, and we do have some additional charges, some small charges for the city, but we look to minimize the impact to the end users.
And I should have mentioned that there will be no change in the fixed rate this year. This is just for the per unit consumption.
Oh, excellent. I'm sorry. I thought I saw something in there. Oh, the sewage charges. Okay. Thank you. I misread that. But that is good news. But again, we're the customer, and we would be irresponsible if we didn't adjust our billing rates to ensure that we can pay our bills and preserve our low bond, our high bond ratings and our low bond costs. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, was there someone? No? Councilman Kritzman, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I gotta be honest with you, approving a 0.5% increase in these rates, I'm ecstatic about that. I really am. And so, to kind of be a bit retrospective here, I'm in my 8th year on council. When I started, we were in the midst of the Great Recession. We were in the midst of some interesting choices from a budget standpoint, from a cost standpoint, from a city budget standpoint. Certainly locally, when you look at politics and DWSD and the evolution of GLWA and all those things that happened, we were asked in my political lifetime, 7 years ago, to buy into the idea of getting out ahead of the problem. And we did that. We chose to do that. And we approved really difficult water rate adjustments. And we adopted, as the city of Livonia, we adopted the billing and modeling concept of the fixed rate system far earlier than most communities. Right when GLWA was even considering it, we did it, before most communities around us. In fact, there's a lot of communities around us that still have not done that, but we have, and we did it. And we did it, and it hurt, and we adopted at some point double-digit water rate increases, and now we're seeing the result of that. We were asked to buy into it, and we did it. And we asked the proper questions on council, and we studied it in committee, and we looked at it over and over again, and we have individuals who are sitting here in the audience who are very active participants in GLWA committees. They're part of the groups that study the problem. They are part of the groups that study the solution. They're part of the groups that study the rates and the setting of the rates. And we're in a situation now where the city of Livonia is benefiting from our expertise, our participation, and our commitment to being part of the solution. And we're in a situation now where we are about to approve a 0.5% increase to water and sewer rates, when in the past we have been approving double-digit increases. And that's simply because we took the uncomfortable step, super uncomfortable step, of being out ahead of the problem. And I know it was difficult for a lot of people and a lot of residents and a lot of businesses, but I absolutely, positively believe we did the best thing possible. And I think we are now benefiting from that, and I hope that this continues, because I remember sitting here at this table when we were asked to take a step to be out ahead of the curve. And we never said that we were going to be able to negate the curve. We were never going to stop increases, but we're going to find ourselves in a situation someday where we're bending the curve. That was the phrase that we used at the time. It wasn't that we were gonna continually have to deal with increases. The goal was to try and stay ahead of it so that we're producing the best product possible, supporting our departments, and staying ahead of the curve, bending the curve. And now here we are, right? We're sitting here now with a 0.5% increase in water rates. And that is something that while many people can say that they don't want to do, we can absolutely be positively proud of it. It's something that I think all of us on council, the city administration, the departments that have spent hours and hours, and I can't tell you how many times they've gone to meetings and dealt with this stuff. We have been a community that has helped lead in this arena, in this region, and we are part of the reason that this is attainable. So thank you to those folks out in the audience who I'm looking at, who have done a great deal of effort in this arena. Thank you very much. And I certainly look forward to approving this.
Thank you, Councilman. Alrighty, I do believe we have an approving on regular. Thank you very much. Okay. Was there anyone from the audience that wished to speak to that before we leave it? Hearing and seeing no one, then we'll move on to item 13, which is a waiver petition from our Planning Commission. Petition 2019-030204, submitted by My Mechanics Place for the outdoor storage and rental of a U-Haul trucks located on the south side of Plymouth Road between Yale and Levan Roads in the northeast quarter of Section 32. Mr. Toromina.
Thank you. Section 11.03K of the zoning ordinance treats this type of use, the rental of utility trailers, as a waiver use. This property is on the south side of Plymouth. It's between Yale and Levan. It's about 1.7 acres, 270 feet of frontage, and about a depth of 270 feet. It's zone C2 general business, and many of you are familiar with this site. It was originally developed in the 1970s as a Wandering Wheels, which was a dealership for recreational vehicles. It was then converted to a Nissan dealership, later became a super high-tech auto service center before becoming a hitch house, and now it is My Mechanics. My Mechanics is a self-serve auto repair facility. The building is about 19,000 square feet. It has about 14 service bays within the structure, and the owner has recently contracted with U-Haul to store utility trailers and trucks on the west side of the property. He's designated 20 spaces along that side of the property for this purpose. Adjacent to that side of the property is a vacant parcel, commercially zoned. It's the old, I'm sorry, it's a lapse of memory here. It was previously a nursery, excuse me. Yeah. And then to the east is a dealer storage lot, and then to the south, as you can see from the aerial photograph, are residential homes that are part of the Kenwood subdivision. So parking is adequate for the site. Even with the 20 spaces being used for this purpose, there's more than ample parking to accommodate the other patrons of the business. There are two special requirements relative to this type of use. The first is lighting. There has to be adequate lighting for the facility. Lights are provided along the side of the property in the form of light poles, about 20 feet in height. The other requirement is to fence the area, to enclose that area with a fence. For various reasons, U-Haul does not fence these areas, primarily because people are returning these vehicles sometimes late into the evening. Security has not been an issue, according to both the owner as well as a representative from U-Haul. Planning Commission reviewed this petition at their meeting on May 14th. They approved it, stipulating a number of conditions, including a maximum of 20 vehicles being stored on the property, as well as some maintenance issues, primarily related to cleanup that's needed in on the rear portion of the site. I believe you have information submitted from a number of residents supporting the petition this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. To the petitioner, any questions for Mr. Toromina before we go to the petitioners?
Cockroach Market. Thank you.
Cockrum's, very good.
Madam Chair, I have a
Yes,
question.
please, go ahead.
Mark, we received a letter from a gentleman, 35638 Elmira. Where would that be on that? Can you point
No,
to that property?
3563 Elmira, is it 3563?
35638 Elmira.
It's almost directly behind it. If you look on this map, you'll see it's on the south side of the property. It's next to the corner of the house, right at the corner. So it's directly behind the parcel in question.
Okay, thank you.
Council, any questions to Mr. Termina as well? No? We'll go to the petitioner. Good evening. Could you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Jameson Rabeau. I live at 12067 Boston Post in Livonia. I brought with me Jesse Brown, who represents U-Haul, if you have any questions to direct towards him.
Okay, you're hoping to do everything Mr. Termina said?
Please.
Pretty much? Yeah. You learn very quickly.
That's brilliant.
It's nice to know someone out there is paying attention as well.
Yes, exactly. Council, then questions for our petitioner?
Madam President?
Yes, please.
So under this arrangement, would you also be facilitating the rental of U-Haul vehicles, or would you just be a drop-off point or a pickup point?
No, that's correct. We do rent them as well.
Okay. So you would take on, in some ways, like you become a location or franchise of U-Haul?
A dealership.
Is there, and maybe if I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
If I can?
Sure.
Where's the closest U-Haul dealership or franchise?
There is another one in Livonia that's about 4 miles away.
And what
It is
road is that on?
National Storage Center off of Merriman and Schoolcraft.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the only other
It's
location?
the only one in Livonia, yep, those two guys.
Okay. And you see a need to fit this market?
Huge need, absolute huge need, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Madam President,
Sir?
I'm happy to offer an approving for this.
Okay. Can I ask you, where's the closest U-Haul then? In Redford? That one? No, that was National, right?
Yes, that's a dealership as well, yes.
Oh, it is a dealership under
Dealership,
U-Haul. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought it was National or something.
Yeah, no, it's a
Okay.
dealership, yep.
All right, perfect, sorry. Councilman Meekum.
Thank you, Madam President. Sir, do you have any other U-Haul dealerships?
No, sir.
Do you have previous experience running a U-Haul dealership, or?
Nope, this is my first time.
So what makes you think this to be a good location for this?
Well, we've actually been operating, and it's needed.
So you're seeing the demand in the neighborhood?
we are.
Okay. And there's opportunities for growth for you there?
There is.
Okay.
The U-Haul works hand in hand with, which, I'm sorry, Merck, I gotta correct you, it's not a self-serve auto repair, it's a do-it-yourself auto repair. So it's not like people can just come in and start fixing their cars. We're there to watch over and monitor their progress and help them along the way. And the store works kind of à la carte with tool rental and space rental. And the U-Haul rental is a real nice fit for us.
Okay. I agree with my colleagues. This is a good fit for this piece of property, and, you know, the extra business will give that Plymouth Road another boost.
Thank you. Councilman Kritzman. Councilman Kritzman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to reiterate that I think this is a great complementary use for that property. The business model that you guys have with the self-service on the mechanic side, and the U-Haul model. I think, like I said, I think this is a great complementary use. You're talking about kind of the same mentality as far as facilities goes. And this is something that will augment the model that you currently have going. I don't see it being a big negative impact to the site and the property. I think you'll do very well there.
Thank you.
Any others before we leave this? So we have an approving then on the regular?
I'll offer that for consent if there is no objection.
I'd like it on the regular if we could, if you wouldn't mind, Councilman. Okay, Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty. Item 14 then, if there's no comments from the audience on that one, is a site plan from the Planning Commission, petition 2019-040806, submitted by the Livonia Hotel Group, L.L.C. to construct a new 6-story dual-brand hotel, Aloft Element, located on the west side of Victor Parkway between 7 Mile Road and Pembroke, at 19265 Victor Parkway in the southeast quarter of Section 6. Mr. Toromina.
Thank you. This is a site the council is familiar with. It's the site of the former Dock Sport Retreat, now closed. This property is about 3.2 acres, 193 feet of frontage on Victor Parkway, as well as 300 feet of frontage on the I-275, I-96 expressway. As you're aware, this site is in the process of being rezoned from its current C2 classification to C4 to allow the hotel, which would be treated as a permitted use. The height of the structure proposed is 6 stories. Council gave first reading on the rezoning on January 16th, and second reading and roll call are on hold pending a review of this evening's site plan. So to the north is the Dave & Buster's, as well as Los Amigos restaurant. There's a pond on the south side of this property that is used for stormwater detention for a large portion of the Victor Corporate Park. And then east on the opposite side of Victor Parkway are homes along Northland Road. The hotel proposed for this site is, as you can see from the site plan, somewhat L-shaped. This is a uniquely configured property. It's at its narrowest point is only 170 feet, so you can see the building has been designed to fit the site as well as possible. There would be, the majority of parking would be on the north and the west sides of the hotel building. The ground coverage limitation in this case is restricted to 20%, which equates to roughly 22,000 square feet. This building is below that. It constitutes 16% of the site area, so it is in full compliance. There would be a total of 218 guest bedrooms. As was indicated, this is a dual-branded hotel, an Aloft, as well as an Element, which is the extended stay portion. There would be 122 rooms or keys for the Aloft, and then 96 for the extended stay Element. In terms of setbacks, the building would comply with the front and rear setbacks. Because of the narrow width of the parcel, variances are needed in the side yard setbacks. What is required is 80 feet. What is shown is 60 feet roughly to the north side and 43 or 44 feet on the south side. But there's parking to the north side as well as the pond, as I indicated earlier, on the south side. In terms of parking, there's a requirement of 1 space per guest room plus 1 space per employee. The proposed hotel would require 233 total parking spaces. The site plan does show 178 on-site parking spaces. There are an additional 71 shared spaces available on the adjacent commercial properties. So combined, there would be a total of 249 spaces. However, the shared spaces on the Dave & Buster's site, that business does operate with a deficiency, so a variance will be needed for the parking deficiency. Stormwater detention would be managed within the existing basin, which is on the property to the south. There's a fully detailed landscape plan that was submitted with the application. Landscaping constitutes over 20% of the property, so it is in full compliance with that requirement. Then lastly, with respect to the building's design, this would be primarily a combination of fiber cement panels, cast stone, and metal panels. This was an item that received a great deal of attention at the Planning Commission during the Planning Commission's review. Initially, there was EFS shown for the building, but much of that has been replaced with the fiber cement, as well as the, again, the cast stone, and as well as the metal panel system. And with that, Madam President, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I'm sorry, how many parking places were they deficient?
Roughly, I will get that number for you in 1 minute.
Oh, certainly. Sorry, I couldn't catch up. Councilman Meekum?
Thank you, Madam President. This site was part of the condo association. Do they have this property purchased outright, or do they have to get approval through the condo association?
I will let them respond to that. There are certain properties that fall outside of the association's building and use restrictions. This site, I believe, is one of them, but I'm going to let them respond to that since they've done the full title search and due diligence on that.
Okay. If we want to wait till we get all the other questions for the petition.
Sure, you don't mind? Okay.
No, that's fine.
Okay, Councilman Jolly, was it? Or Councilwoman McIntyre then?
I'm anxious to hear from the petitioner, but I will say that and I think this is a great concept. I was excited about when I first heard it. It's something, I think it's just a great use of a unique space. And I think the new brands are exciting, but I am concerned about the deficiency in parking, because there's nothing worse than getting to a hotel, and I think these are oriented towards business travelers, one being an extended stay. There's nothing worse to me as a business traveler than getting back late at night to my hotel and not being able to find a place to park. And I always feel like they know how many rooms they have, so I'm anxious to hear the petitioner's thoughts on that.
And that total deficiency would be 55 according to my
55,
calculations.
okay. Council Vice President Jolly, did you have a comment?
I
Are you all
think
set?
Councilwoman McIntyre said it perfectly.
Okay.
I also, just to reiterate, this is a concept where you know how many cars you're gonna have there, and to run at a deficiency right off the bat. And when Mr. Terramina said that the lot next door that you propose to share with is itself running at a deficiency, that's quite a hill to climb. So I'm interested to see how you plan on climbing it.
Thank you. Okay, did we want to go to go right ahead.
I do, and again, what I'm trying to do is get all my questions out there so they can be
Great.
answered without a highly iterative process. I'd like to know also in your design specs, if there's an opportunity for some additional masonry work up, maybe an additional 1 or 2 stories.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Sir, you're the petitioner, and your name and address, please.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Mitch Harvey with Stonefield Engineering, 607 Shelby Street, Detroit, Michigan. I am here representing the applicant, Livonia Hotel Group. Just kind of a brief overview of these 2 brands that we are bringing to this area is the Aloft and Element that'll be blended into one building as a dual brand hotel.
Mm-hmm.
These are upscale boutique hotel brands that are typically catered towards a demographic of business professionals that will be traveling through the greater Livonia area. The Element would be your extended stay, where the Aloft would be more of a typical couple-night stay type of hotel. Both brands have a strong following, and from professionals that have accumulated rewards through their travels to Boston, Philadelphia, Miami, where they already have some of these brands in place. And therefore, we believe the proposed hotel will pull surrounding area travelers into Livonia for their lodging needs. So as far as approval from the condo committee, we do have that in writing. They've already voiced their approval for us. Parking, historically, parking for hotels has been one space per one room. Today, what we are seeing is a kind of a shift in the hotel parking demand industry. So whereas more people are not flying in or renting cars, they'll be utilizing Lyft, Uber, ride shares such as that. So what we have proposed here is essentially 4 parking spaces per 5 rooms. I know the math doesn't really equate to 1 per 1, but we feel we are self-sufficient parking on site. And, we don't really see a need where we would need those additional parking spaces to have a 1-to-1 ratio. As far as architecturals, I'll let Scott, who is the architect, speak on those.
Before you do that, was there any questions for this gentleman? Real quick? No? Okay, go right ahead then, Scott.
Scott Bowers, Bowers and Associates Architects, 2400 South Huron Parkway, Ann Arbor. Yes, there is opportunities where we could add some more masonry. Right now, we have 2 levels of stone masonry, full bed depth. And then from there, we go up with either metal panel or the Nichiha fiber cement panels. We're looking for a more modern look. That's what we're reaching for. So the darker corners right there would be the Nichiha fiber cement panels. The lower one would be the wood look, the brown color. Most of the white that you see would be the metal panel, but the first 2 stories would be a cast stone.
Great. Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, Councilman Barr, then Councilman Mink.
Is the rendering we're seeing up there different than what we had in our packets? I'm trying, just because.
It's the same.
That should be it right there.
Okay, that looks more like what I'm seeing on the screen. Okay, thank you. I was just trying to clarify, because what I was seeing up there was not showing 2 stories of masonry. It didn't look like.
Yeah, it didn't look like it. It looked like an older one that we had.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, thanks. I just wanted to clarify that.
You all set, Scott? Yeah. Okay, Councilman Mink.
Thank you, Madam President. Gentlemen, you've kind of addressed your desires for the parking spaces for the residents, but what about employees? How many employees do you expect to employ?
About 15, 20
Yeah, about 15.
Is that per hotel or total?
total.
Okay. Have you talked to anybody about off-site agreements for that as well?
So we do actually have 71 spaces in a parking easement agreement with the Dave & Buster's and Mexican restaurant to the north of us. We believe we're self-sufficient on-site even without those 71 spaces, but we did take a look at those 71 spaces and how they're being utilized by Dave & Buster's. We went out actually 4 separate times, Friday evening, Saturday kind of noonish time, and then Sunday evening. And even during the peak hours of Dave & Buster's, the parking lot was only about 80% full. And frankly, on the weekends is not when we'd see this hotel being most busy. It would be during the weekday. And so we're kind of seeing the busy time for Dave & Buster's and the Mexican restaurant being weekends, Friday evenings, where the hotel's peak busy hours parking-wise would be Monday through Thursday, 6 a.m. and then, again at 7 a.m. when people are back from work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
May I add something?
Yes, please, your name and address, sir, for the record?
My name is Akram Namo. I am representing the ownership, and I'm a part owner. I have been over 25 years in the hotel business, operating, developing upscale hotels. Basically, you can see to the neighborhood here, we own and operate the 2 Marriotts on Ford Road. That's my development. We just finished a Hyatt in downtown Royal Oak. Basically, we opened it recently, and many other upscales only in Michigan. My favorite Michigan. So for the last 25 years, I have had extensive experience in hotel occupancy and obviously hotel operations and the like. The employees for parking, I just want to, definitely we provided you with a letter explaining the dual concept. These are not your regular hotels. These are upscale, boutique, unique hotels. So only one in city of Detroit, the Aloft. And you know what the rates are? $500 a night. So these, and the Element is really a higher extended stay scale. So these are what we call boutique jazzy hotels. They are not your regular Hampton Holiday Inn type rooms. They are way definitely over the other hotels like such as Quality, Best Western, that there's no really comparison whatsoever. The parking, our employees park usually or come to work from really 8 or 9 to 3 o'clock. Check-ins are always at 3. So here, there will be no parking, for David Buster's, with hours even. There should be no dilemma or no really need for any parking. Once the employees leave, then the guest comes in. And we had done many, many visits and studies that we really do not need more parking, but if we do, then we have that easement of 70-some parking next door. So definitely, the impact of the employee parking will not at all affect our guests. The other thing is, to be honest with you, I'd love to be full all year round, but really, there's about 5 to 10 days that you are full. So, there's always, hot days or hot weekends that you are definitely full, which I estimate about 10 days in the year. So we have David Buster's parking, excess parking there, and definitely we have adequate to cater most of the year. And more with emphasis, this is an upscale corporate executive hotels. This is during the week, not really pretty much the weekend. So we will not really have any shortage of parking, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Vice President Jolly.
Madam President, a question to Mr. Taramina and Mr. Goldstein. If we were to approve this site plan as it currently is, or any site plan as it is presented, and there is later found to be a problem with parking, do we have any opportunity to come back and request that that be addressed, or is that just something that's, the ship has sailed, as we would say? Because in situations like this, we see what the requirement is, we see that the transportation dynamic is changing. There is an expectation that a operator of a business would know what they're doing. But I want to understand, is there an opportunity if there was a problem that we could come back and request that a change be made?
It would be very limited, and it would be dependent on any conditions that might be imposed either on the site plan or any variances that are granted for parking deficiencies. The one opportunity that we do have to readdress parking issues is where spaces are land banked, but that would not be the situation here. So it would really depend on any conditions that are imposed on the site plan as far as readdressing those. And how that would be handled, I really don't know. So in terms of providing additional spaces, the only way it could be done would be limiting the intensity of the use to bring it in scale with the amount of parking.
But you're saying theoretically, through a stipulation in the approval, we could have them potentially call on off-site parking elsewhere if necessary? Potentially?
Potentially, yes. That would be something that they'd have to, I think, submit to you for your consideration as part of the site plan. As a condition of approval, it makes it awfully difficult for them to go out there and find that absent, So again, I don't know how that would be addressed as a condition of approval, quite frankly. If you just said, provide the ample parking at another site somewhere else, I don't know how we would, if that would be fair at this point. So if there's a real concern relative to parking, it should probably be addressed now through the site plan approval process.
Okay. Can I have a follow-up question? Sure. For the petitioner, will this hotel be utilizing any kind of shuttle van or shuttle service at all?
No, I don't. Oh,
well. Well, see, that changes things a little bit.
Sorry. Yes, we will have courtesy shuttle vans.
And where will they go to and from?
They can go up to 10 miles radius.
Not the airport.
10 to 12, 15 maybe at max. We can shuttle people to the airport.
Okay, so here, let me, listen. The hill that I talked about, you're climbing it, but is it, we could shuttle them to the airport, or we will shuttle them to the
We
airport?
will shuttle them.
Okay.
We will have 2 vans if you want to.
That's more than 10 miles, though, because I think that,
More than 15.
If necessary.
but that solves the problem largely, to an extent anyways, right?
We will have at least 2 vans, courtesy vans to take people within about 10-mile radius.
To the airport?
Well, if necessary, we will.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Councilman Meekin, then Councilman Kritzman.
Gentlemen, one question I have, do you have Aloft and Element under contract for this location?
I'm sorry?
Do you have the Aloft and the Element hotels under contract?
Yes. We have fully signed, executed franchise agreements.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Kritzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gentlemen, my comments are largely related to the building itself. Related to parking, just to get that out of the way a bit. I don't have an issue with the 80 to 100 parking ratio. I really do believe in the fact that, let me restate that. I do believe in the theory that a lot of transportation in the future will be executed via companies similar to Uber, to Lyft, or other automated means. I think we are going to start to see a shift in how communities are developed because of autonomous vehicles and things of that sort. So I'm not altogether uncomfortable with the parking ratio. That aside, I took to heart your comments about the fact that Aloft and Element are nicer venues. And so as someone who is a bit of a stickler for exterior materials, I would love to see this thing be 100% masonry, because as you're telling me that this is a nicer venue, to me, that is what speaks to it being a nicer building and a nicer solution in its entirety. Mr. Bowers has been before us multiple times and has probably warned you to the fact that I would say this ahead of time, and has probably already shared that thought and feeling with you. I'll tell you this, I think the design is very nice. I think the fact that the way the building shifts and does a bit of an L sort of shape, the way that you approach the oncoming traffic on 275 and the materials change, and it's very well presented. I think it does a nice job using the shifts in materials in very advantageous sort of ways. What I look at is beyond all of that frosting and all of the great parts of the design, that base material where the masonry is stuck down at the second level as opposed to going all the way up to the sixth. I personally would like to, I heard it mentioned from one or two other council people, I'd like to see that go up another course or two. And I think it is certainly a legitimate request, or I guess a design element from your part, that the EFS be maintained at that fifth, sixth level, maybe even down to the fourth level. But I would like to see that masonry come up a little bit. I think that is something that makes sense for the level of investment that you're trying to make. Certainly, we can't cover this whole thing in Nichiha panels or other fiber cement elements. I mean, those are expensive components, and I think you've done a very nice job using those, but I'd like to see that base course come up one or two stories.
Can I speak to that now?
Absolutely. Your call.
Yes, physically we can do it. I do need to speak to the brand about that because they do have a particular about, what they wanted to see. I don't think it'll be an issue to bring it up to the third floor. And you were saying after that, we could approach it as EFS from third to the roof?
I'm just one of 7 people, but I think, from my aesthetic and my thought process, that would be nice. I see what you've done from a shift in materials on that second level from the masonry on the base course there in the main mass. You've got some of the other fiber cement components being carried to that same second level. If all that moved up a block, I think that would be huge. That'd be a big difference. I think compositionally, it wouldn't necessarily hurt it. It changes the proportions of it to a more 50-50 split. I get it. But I think you can make it work.
I think, once I talk to the brand, I can make it work.
Beautiful.
He has a good way with words.
I knew he would.
All right, great.
Madam Chair,
Okay,
I have a
yes, go
question for
ahead.
the petitioner. You mentioned the rates of the Aloft Hotel in Detroit. How do you envision these rates for this hotel?
Our rates will be lower because, again, there's special events in Detroit downtown and stuff like that, but our rates will be high enough, you know, in the 200s, 250. And this is going to be a state-of-the-art building, and it will justify those rates. We want to attract people from Detroit to stay with us and maybe commute back and forth. So I have to have my marketing strategies working for me too.
I
So
understand.
definitely, because the Aloft and the Element, they are always in major cities, as I explained in my, you know, tables over here. So they are, Marriott is very selective, very demanding when those two brands are put together.
Okay, thank you.
And this will be the first project in Michigan as a dual brand.
If I may ask you a couple questions, why did you pick this location?
It's a great location.
Okay.
It is the center of 275 corridor. It is surrounded by, excuse me, it's surrounded by restaurants. The easy egress and egress to the location makes it very easy to get in and out.
Okay.
And it is really the hub. I'm closer to all the major cities. I'm close to Ann Arbor, Plymouth, Canton, Southfield. I mean, I'm in the center of all these cities pretty much. So it's a great location. And Marriott loved it.
And you're not going to have a restaurant in this
No,
facility
no
at all?
sit-down restaurant, nothing, but it's gonna be a small bar and the Aloft, just like drinks.
Sure, sure.
Small, really small bar.
Okay.
And we do have the liquor license existing from the old restaurant that we are demolishing.
Smart, very smart. Okay. Councilman Meekin, thank you, sir.
Madam President, I'm going to offer an approving resolution. I think this is a very exciting project. You've heard some of the concerns of the council, and you've addressed most of those. We've got a couple weeks till our next meeting, so hopefully you can implement some of them. But I'd like to move this forward and offer an approving resolution.
On the regular?
Yeah, let's keep it on the regular, so we have those other issues to address.
Do you understand, sir, what's going on? You okay?
I'm sorry?
Do you understand what he just offered?
Yeah, I mean, that's
Oh,
great, yeah.
yeah. He offered an approving, but we still have to vote on it, okay?
No problem.
The next meeting, but it's on the regular, so we can get some of those answers on maybe the parking and
Absolutely.
various things. Don't give them to us the night of the meeting, okay? Please bring them in to the council office about 24 hours before our next meeting, if not sooner, okay? And the council has all our phone numbers, all our emails, if you need to get a hold of us as well, okay?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, certainly. Councilman Barr.
I just want to clarify one man's opinion. The parking's not an issue to me either. I buy into your theory on the parking, and I know we often tend to be pretty conservative on that front. I think it makes sense. And I just want to clarify that because she just mentioned some of the issues with the parking. I personally don't see an issue with the parking. Councilman Kritzman's comment about more masonry, I'd like to see some more thoughts on that. But again, I'm only one council person, but I don't want to see building traded for parking based on what you have here. I think this looks fantastic the way it is.
Okay, well, we have.
Appreciate it, guys.
Okay, thank you so much for coming in. Good luck driving home, and we'll see you shortly. Okay, anyone from the audience wishing to speak to this? All you gentlemen in the back, you're all happy? Okay, good. All right, we're on the last item on our agenda for this evening, item 15. This is from the Law Department. Thank you for waiting, Mr. Goldstein. Proposed amendment to Livonia Code of Ordinance as amended to amend Section 020 of Chapter 52, which is fireworks, of Title 8 to bring our ordinance in line with the state statute MCLA 28.457 regarding the ignition, discharge, and use of consumer fireworks within our city. Mr. Goldstein.
Thank you, Madam President. What we are doing here is very simple. The state, in its wisdom, has crafted legislation telling us what we can and cannot do when it comes to regulating the discharge of fireworks by private individuals within our jurisdiction. What we are doing is modifying our ordinance to be consistent with what we are allowed to do by state law. The details are in the paperwork.
Didn't they leave it to local control or no?
They left us parameters that we could be within.
Okay.
Now, if they say we can regulate, say, I'll give you an arbitrary metric, we can regulate up to 50, then we could regulate 45 or 40 or 30 and so forth. As I understand it, from my review of the materials, we are regulating up to 50 as they say we can do. We are doing the fullest amount of regulation that we are allowed to do by state law.
Awesome.
Madam President?
Yes, please.
I'd like to offer an approval for this matter. It's a housekeeping matter. Law Department's keeping us apprised of our standing with the state laws, and I think it's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Vice President, Jolly has offered that on a consent, if that's
That'll
all
go
right?
on the regular again.
Oh,
That's
that'll go on the regular then, okay.
You need a first reading, correct?
ordinance.
Oh, that's right, it's an ordinance. I didn't think it was a change, I thought we were just going with the state because we're happy.
We are changing our ordinance to be in keeping with the state.
There we go. Okay, thank you, Mr. Goldstein, so much. And if there's nothing else to come before us, we are adjourned because there's no audience.
Yeah.
Communications.
45.
They-